Glad that you're all here. I wish we had a lot more time because I was just starting to connect with some people I hadn't seen for 10 and 15 years. Have not been back to the campus until like today. And we're so glad to invite and have you all come in. And please stay involved with the school. Please, please, please keep your eyes out for events like this because the school is very serious about the fact that the success of you is the success of us. That we're not going to do any good to this community, to this industry, to this world, unless you all do. And we're there for you. And I'm really, really moved from some of the stories that I've just heard in terms of people that I haven't been in touch with, but they've been working steadily and doing amazing things. To me, the purpose of a mixer like this is so that everybody, every person that's here will get a chance to talk to every other person that's here. We want you all to become friends. So we have 10,000 grads. There's 100 of you here right now. But if we get to know each other and we help each other and we support each other, think of the power we'll have in this industry. Really, really amazing. And the school has the juice to support all that. Y'all know me, right? I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Joe Byron, okay? I'm the director of Alumni Relations, and I've had a lot of other jobs in the past. I've been the director of students, I've been the dean, I've been the director of education, I've been a teacher, and I had, the honor, of course, of teaching the first class back in September of 1999. And every day, over 20 years, has been very special to me. And where we are and how we are in Hollywood is a very special thing. I like to say, I can't walk around the block without seeing something I've never seen before. And sometimes it's pretty scary. So we have an amazing panel here for you tonight. We're going to spend most of the time hearing their stories. I want you to all think of questions to ask this very interesting and diverse group. But before we get started with that, I wanted to introduce and ask Mario Novoa to come on up here. Okay. A lot of you probably remember Mario either as a student, a co-student, or when he worked in our education department. He was my assistant for a while, but he was so darn good at it that we made him education manager. And now he's off producing and working on a lot of on independent projects. But Mario is very special to us all because he was the originator, creator, and current president of the Los Angeles Film School Alumni Association. So give him a pitch.
Thank you, Joe. I'm not going to say very much. I just want to say that for those of you that have been out in the world and working and really creating and putting yourselves out there in a way that you didn't think you were able to do at some point, and now you're doing it, I want to encourage you to reach out to your fellow alumni that you don't know, to the people to the right and to the left of you, and encourage them to keep going, because this is, for Joe and I, a legacy project that was started in 2012, but we talked about it years before that. We needed an organization that could speak to the struggles, that could speak to people who were feeling like this was an industry that is an impossibility to get into. And it's possible, but you have to keep doing it. You have to keep creating. As our alumnus has said before, always be creating. ABC, and it's true in the sense of building a business, hiring other alumni, and never forgetting where you come from. And this space that LA Film School provides for us is essential for our survival. So I encourage you to keep coming, connect through social media or phone numbers, and we're going to be here to support you for many years. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Mario. He really means it, too. He really means it. As I mentioned, the school is really, really invested now in its students, its graduates, its alumni. The school is really putting its money where its mouth is. In terms of, you see, they're painting the buildings now. Programs are growing, programs are improving. And we now have, believe it or not, folks, some of you have probably been here when we didn't have 2 or 3 buildings, okay? We now have 4,000 active students. Does that blow your mind or what? We have about 2,000 online, about 2,000 on ground. So the school is healthy, and it's because you all are doing your jobs and doing exceptionally well at it. We have this amazing, with the group that helped to produce this particular event, and the event, if you happen to be at the one this afternoon, is our career development department, which consists of about 20 very inspired, very hardworking people that are out there finding jobs, building relationships, out there to help you. And I want to introduce at this time the director of our career development department, Ms. Angelia Bibbs Sanders.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. It is with great pleasure and honor that I love having our Alumni Association back on campus, because we are you, and we know that you are also going to be helping to fuel future opportunities for our students who are soon to be graduates or students who've just graduated. So a lot of that will be discussed tonight with these fabulous panelists that have been put together to talk about their journey and how perhaps they might want to give back to the school. So I've been here just now 2 years. It's been a lot of changes, and for some of you that maybe met me about this time 2 years ago, we're just trying to find our way, but we've had some really amazing things happen. Our programming arc has expanded greatly, so I'm hoping that you are staying in touch with us, and through your relationships with your previous advisor or some of the contacts that you have on campus, you're getting invitations to our events. I hope that we are placing you or putting you in front of employers, as we did tonight with the Jumpstart Your Career event. We had some amazing panelists, and happy to talk to you about that if you are not aware of some of the employers that are now working with us on campus. But most importantly, we've just launched a new software platform called Career Connect. It's fueled by a company called Simplicity. So you might hear about it, you might see it, and if you see that word simplicity, it feels kind of odd and strange. But we want to invite everybody here to re-engage with the Career Development Department through the platform called Career Connect. When you all leave here today, there will be cards at the check-in desk that will allow you to use a QR code and actually put this platform right on your device tonight. And what will this platform do? It will give you access 24/7 to our advising team. It will connect you with somebody that you can come back in and re-engage with, an advisor, somebody that perhaps is a new addition to our team, somebody that you may not have known while you were here, but currently actively advising and helping and connect our grads with opportunities. It will allow you to upload your resume and do that digitally from your home or wherever you are, and we will work with you on that so you don't physically have to come in. You could set a phone meeting, an in-person meeting. We always want to see you on campus, and we would love to have you come in, but if you can't do that, you can work with us via phone. It will also give you access to jobs. And that's an exciting thing. We have curated jobs that we have special connections with employers to actually present you or actually connect you with those jobs. Never any guarantees. That's something we're very careful about. We can't guarantee you employment. However, we want to do all that we can to try to connect you, to try to develop you, to try to use personal relationships that we have to give you an advantage. So keep in mind Career Connect. And there are a couple of advisors that I see in the back of the room. Steve Longo, raise your hand. He's our film advisor. Amanda Gomez, who's our entertainment business advisor. Solomon Vaughn, who's the new member of the team. He's a music production advisor. Those are folks that are here for you, that we've got a commitment to you ongoing after you've left this institution, and that's our commitment, and we want to make sure you're staying with and connected to us. So Career Connect, and the other thing I think I'm going to do is have our team, Joe, if it's okay, everybody that's checked in tonight, let's blast them with the link so that they get reminded after this event is over. If you leave here and do not get that QR code and you don't put it on your phone, we'll blast you, because it's a really exciting tool, and I think it's going to be very helpful. So again, we are growing. It is our desire always to provide service and support to our graduates. So thank you for coming home, and look forward to seeing you around campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelia. We're going to have a drawing at the end of the panel here, and I have a box. If you have not put your business card in this box, you will not have a chance to win a Joe Byron handmade pen, okay? So I'm going to pass this box around. Do not take any cards out. But please, if you haven't put one in, put it in, okay? And now I want to introduce our panel. Sitting in the first chair, even though I told him he would not have to speak first, Arrey Levine. Arrey, you want to come on up here? Probably a lot of you already know of Arrey because we've bragged about him so much. He is Grammy-winning nominated producer, engineer, composer, amazing library, amazing portfolio. You'll find out a little bit more about him as we get farther on in the panel. The only Los Angeles film school graduate to ever be nominated for an Oscar, Mr. Martin Penza. He edited the amazing movie Dallas Buyers Club. Remember that movie? Should have won. Gravity won that year, but it wasn't a real editing job. Right, Martin? Martin currently has a movie on Disney Plus, just came out, called Togo. And you should watch it just for the editing alone. It's really worth the cost of admissions, okay? Sandra Sealing. Sandra is the founder and the heart and soul of the, don't tell me, Evolution Mallorca International Film Festival, which is about to have its 10th anniversary. Next, we have Peter Munters. Peter has 4 Golden Reel nominations for sound design and just recently won his first Golden Reel. Also, he has Emmy nomination too.
Thank you.
And Alex, I call him Munoz because that's what he was when he was here. He's now Alex Ferrafino. Alex and his partner David, who's out here somewhere, recently won the HBO Short Latino Film Competition. He has a 2-year contract with HBO. How cool is that? And one thing my favorite thing about Alex, besides the fact that he was such a pain in the butt when he was a student, is that he's responsible for hiring at least 3 dozen, if not more, grads from the LA Film School, put them on sets in their locations. And that's something we really love. Can't make that big step. Okay. So, folks, I give you our panel. And what I want to do is kind of see if we can squeeze some bios out of these people. So I want to start out with a question. How did you start? What inspired you to get involved in this crazy industry? What was your background? And what brought you to the Los Angeles Film School? And Alex, we're going to start with you.
What up, fam?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in the Universal backlot. So that's how I got inspired with the filmmaking process. Going on the stage 12, watching the T-Rex encounterment of Jurassic Park, the first one. That was my introduction to film sets. I've always been a geek. I always loved comic books. Drawing was my thing. I'm a graffiti artist. And I was like a gangster nerd. I was gangster game banging in the streets, and then at night I was drawing cartoons and fairy tale things, and it was like I was living double story. Like it was weird, but so literally it took a death of one of my friends, and seeing that made me flip around and pursue a career that's not going to be violent or have some type of tragic like that. And it was that. It took something drastically for me to say, you know what, I should use the scholarship that I won as a graffiti artist and come to film school. And I came to the LA Film School in one of those Saturday tour scenarios, and I was just sold. I was applying to film schools, and the LA Film School opened up their arms and said, welcome, and here I am.
Wow. That's a movie.
Yeah.
I know.
Peter, you're up.
My friends, I was a bored teenage punk rocker in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. So I started a band. My band got signed. We traveled the world. Then we got unsigned. And during the arc of this process, my love for music continued to grow, went through the roof, all the way to the stars, and it's still somewhere out there. I can't believe that, actually. I've wanted to just quit it so many damn times. But I never really did. And I fell in love with recording, and when my band got out of its second major label record deal, my girlfriend at the time said, "What are you gonna do, man? You gotta make money somehow. You never have before." I had made like a little bit writing songs. It was really cool, actually, but I needed something more consistent. And I stumbled into work recording audiobooks and working with bands out here without really knowing or having the faintest idea what I was doing in any kind of like validated way. I learned Pro Tools on my own, started to dabble in Logic. I knew what I liked about music, and I knew what I loved about being creative, but I had no structure. So, to make myself more marketable, I looked at school. And I toured a few schools. I fell in love with this one. It was something about the personnel and the facilities. I wanted to be able to work in rooms where they had real recording consoles. And the teachers here just felt really instantly magnetic to me. So I came here. I acted like a huge teacher's pet.
Which it works.
And I mean, what is more worthwhile than bringing enough enthusiasm so that no one worries about who's going to get the credit at the end of class, or when the movie's done, or when the song is written? If we're all excited enough to be in this room, we're going to bring our best and share our best. That's what I love about being a creative person. So during my process here at school, I finished the recording program and went on into the entertainment business program to get a bachelor's degree. And one of my teachers offered me an internship at Boutique Animation Post House. And I know I love cartoons. I've been loving them my whole life. I relate to your geekdom in fundamental ways. But I didn't know that that was what I wanted to do. The whole time I was thinking, I'm going to be a songwriter. I'm going to get back into the studio and work with artists. But at the same time, I really loved this teacher, and I loved the discovery that had happened to me in the film classes. I only had a few, given that I was a music and recording student. So I took the internship, and I was the greatest intern who ever lived, and they hired me on a few months later. I still like to think of myself that way, honestly. Client service is number one. Because again, like being in the class with other creatives, when you are sitting at the recording chair or making the coffee or running logistics and operations, you're just a part of something greater. And if you give it your all, it will pay you back in ways you hadn't imagined. And that's why I got to sit in the recording chair and work as a sound designer on series for Nickelodeon and DreamWorks and learn skill sets that had really, quite frankly, scared the crap out of me up until that point. So I feel like I'm getting long-winded now. But anyway, I'm still a songwriter. I'm still a recording engineer. I'm still a sound designer. I'm still a director. I'm still a voice producer. But most of all, I just want to be in a room full of people who give a damn about creating. And that's why this place is important. So thank you.
Sandra, you have an interesting background.
Yeah, hi everybody. This is nice to be with Alumni. I'm Sandra Lipsky, and I am German, but I grew up in Spain. hence my festival in Spain. But I started acting when I was 14 in Spain, and then I went to New York to acting school, and then I came here. I had this opportunity, this agent signed me, and I did pretty good, and I was in TV shows and movies, and then I was like, ooh, I want to do my own stuff. I need more control. So I made a short film, met my husband, who's a DP, who had to help me with everything, and I got so excited that I said, I want to do another short. And then he goes, well, why don't you go, if you really want to do this for real, why don't you go back to film school and really learn the craft behind the camera? And at that point, I was like already like 24, 25, and I was like, I'm not going to go back for like another 3 years. So then I found this program, and it was a year, and it was intense, and it was full-time, and I did it, and I loved it. And what I loved so much about the school is that it's really like you get what you put in. And I put in, guys. Like, I rented those cameras every weekend. I had like new content and videos, and it wasn't good at the beginning, but I did stuff, and that's what I loved. And the teachers would see that, and they would challenge you and help you and connect you. So for me, I really loved it here, guys. And yeah, so long story short, how did I get to the film festival? And then my thesis film that I made here called My Mother went to a lot of festivals. And I was like, ooh, I want to send my film to Mallorca, where I grew up. It's an island in Spain, and have it shown there so my family could see it. No festival in Mallorca. I'm like, how is there a film festival in every tiny town in the world, but not on this gorgeous island that a lot of people know, by the way? Well, yeah. And so I thought, well, I just started. And yeah, I was very young and naive, and I started a film festival. And now I've been running it for 9 years. And
Hey.
Yay! Thank you. Yeah, and so the last 2 years it became that big that that it's like my full-time job now, and I'm my own boss, and that's really terrifying. We can talk about that.
Great job, great job. Martin.
Yes. Hello. So it all started when I was born in France. I moved to Canada, Montreal, when I was 6 years old. And I don't know, I always was, and I always loved theater and like photography, music, everything. I never knew exactly what I wanted to do until I got in what we call sort of pre-university in Quebec, and where you get to choose a bit more where you want to go for in university. And then I went obviously in art, but still no idea what I would do. And I met this wonderful teacher who started teaching film theory, film studies, and all that, and it just all made sense. Like, how do you love all of this that's mushed into one medium that's called film? How did I not think about it? I don't know. But so my love for film really happened there. And then just thinking about it constantly, there was no doubt to me that this is what I wanted to do. And I was lucky enough to come here on the third year of the LA Film School, which was, there was nothing except great teachers and a bunch of decent equipment. And pretty decent equipment. Nothing.
What else do you need?
Yeah, a great theater and contacts. You had contacts with amazing people at famous equipment rooms and studios, and so we're very lucky to be so few people to be able to just like create bonds together. I worked on something like 15 or 16 shorts during that year. I wanted to touch everything. I didn't care if I was a script supervisor, DP, whatever. I touched it all, and I was focusing on directing. That was my dream, but I wanted to know everything about movie before that. And then I went back home in Montreal because back then I hated LA so much. Because you're a student and you have no money, and like this very overwhelming city that you know nothing about, you don't know what you're gonna do. So I went home, I'm like, they're gonna treat me like a king. I'm coming back from Hollywood. I know everything now, and the reality of jobs, as you know, is like, So I started my own little company with a friend of mine, and we directed and edited. We did everything together until he decided to go back to school, and I was like, well, I need to start from the bottom again, and I went as an assistant editor, and again, I just wanted to learn everything that I could at every stop, and if I wasn't learning anything at some point, then I needed to move on and go somewhere else. So I learned a lot about visual effects as I was going through it. I had a good background of sound design when I was here, and at some point I was in this visual effects company that was also doing editing sometimes. So they knew I could do visual effects. I was doing editing when I could, and one of the best friend of the owner was Jean-Marc Vallée, who was director who did the Dallas Buyers Club and everything. And he was doing a very personal movie. He was looking for an assistant editor at the time, and they said, you should go with him. He's an editor, but he'll be your assistant editor. And we bonded, and we did a great movie together. And then he's like, well, I got this movie, Dallas Buyers Club. We don't have a big budget, but if you want to co-edit with me, And so I did, and then now I'm here. But yeah, that's the long story.
It's a very good story.
Yep.
Arrey, I know you come from New Jersey, right?
Yes, I come from New Jersey. I had a very, very simple plan. It was 2 parts. Part 1, meet Dr. Dre. Part 2, make the beats for him. And that was my plan. As like a kid, that was my plan. And that was the plan I made when I was 16. And I didn't know how else I was going to do it, except I knew he lived in California. So I had to move to California. And I found the Los Angeles Recording School. And it was affordable enough for like a young kid to move out here and learn the basics. And once I had my mind set on that, I started real small. I just started I weaseled my way into like an internship at a small recording studio in New York City. I wasn't famous or anything like that. They didn't even make rap music. They just made like indie rock music, but I didn't care. I was just gonna get their sandwiches and their coffee and whatever else they needed me to do. And they would just teach me not even the equipment. I don't think I was even allowed to like look at the equipment, It was just like basic etiquette of like how to be in a studio and not mess with people. And then I got to learn the equipment once I moved out here and started learning more of the stuff on my own, and just kind of repeated that process of just getting around people who knew more than me and trying to soak up as much as I can when I could. And that just, kept getting me into different places as it went, until eventually a couple years later I had my own recording studio. Nothing, like literally around the corner from here, and again, nothing special. It was just a small room with not very good equipment, but not top of the line or anything like that, but that's what I was accustomed to working on. So I got good at working on the equipment that's not the best. And then when I did get around equipment that was a little bit better, my mind was blown. And I still would use the exact same techniques as I would on my not so good equipment, but on the better equipment. And I don't know, it just made me fine-tune my craft a little bit better than I think someone who might have learned on top of the line. I just kept doing that and more things happened, and just kept working hard and almost every day. And then little by little, everything just kind of adds up, and before you know it, years have gone by and you're like, oh, I'm professional now. All I wanted to do was, I dropped out of high school to do this, so you have to really love it, and there's not very many people who are going to support that decision. They're not going to be like, yeah, good idea. Drop out of high school and go make beats for Dr. Dre in California. But in order to prove to them that it was possible, all I wanted to do was make a career that would match someone that was going to college and had a 4-year degree or something like that. Realistically, that's what I wanted. I just wanted to prove to people that I could make enough money to support myself being creative. And that turned into more than I could have ever imagined. And that was it.
Hey.
Your stories are also amazing. You've kind of killed my questions. But no, I have another question. Okay, you graduated from school and you're working in the industry. I would love to hear some kind of break or some kind of important thing that happened that changed your life forever, or someone that you met, that you worked with, that changed your life forever, or at the point where you said to yourself, oh my gosh, this is a little bit better than I thought it was going to be, or this is not exactly what I thought it was going to be, but I seem to be on the right path. Okay? And Peter, we're going to start with you this time, okay?
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
It can be a story or a joke or an anecdote.
Yeah. Gosh. I'm trying to think of something funny, and nothing's really springing to imagination.
It can be tragic, too.
We got plenty of those.
All right, well, this is kind of the bittersweet one. When I was an intern at the animation studio, early on, I met one of my childhood idols, whom I did not realize was an idol of mine. Her name is Andrea Romano. She's an uber veteran of the animation industry. She's worked as a casting director and voice director out here for, well, she came out here, I think, in 1985, and started out working at Hanna-Barbera. And when she went freelance in 1989, she helped launch the WB animation department with a little show called DuckTales as the director. And so she was very formative in an indirect way to my kid sensibility. These are the shows that I watched after school in the 90s. So I'm working in the studio, and this is the first ADR session that I've been welcome to assist on, and in walks the director and the engineer, my boss, the studio owner, introduces me. Peter, this is Andrea, this is my new assistant, Peter. He's been helping out around here. Andrea Romano. Peter, you may know her. She's going to be directing the session today. And I didn't know who she was then, but I Googled her after. Thank you, Google. Thank you, Internet. And realized that this was the person I had been kind of communing with creatively and had been inspired by my whole life, really up until that point. Long story shorter, I ended up switching chairs with my boss and doing a lot of the recording over the next 2 years. I worked on a little series called Puss in Boots for Netflix, and she was the director of that show, so we got to connect a lot for the next 2 years. This is about like early 2016. And in 2018, Andrea fell suddenly ill with ocular neuropathy, which in layman's terms is an eyeball that's stopping working. And she decided right then and there, after seeing a lot of specialists and doing therapies and whatnot, that it was going to be an early retirement for her because she didn't want to even try and represent her lifelong skill set with only one functional eyeball. So I made my bittersweet farewell to Andrea and realized right then and there how precious these connections really are. Yeah, I don't know. It's just sort of it's an example to recognize when you're lucky to not be the smartest person in the room, and really hold on to the relationships that inspire you most.
Great. Sandra, you're in the hot seat.
Okay, well, I thought of a little story. It's not somebody that inspired me. Actually, it's myself. And I'll tell you a little story. So I graduated from this film school, and me and 2 other alumni had the initial idea for this film festival that was gonna go like global, but they had to go back to Egypt. Do you remember them? Yeah, and so that didn't work out. So then I said, okay, I'm gonna go to Mallorca and do the Mallorca Film Festival. And I went, And I made this little PowerPoint presentation, and I went to the local film commission, and I presented it, and I said, listen, you know, I want to talk to all the filmmakers here on the island. So I grew up there from 9 to 18, and then I moved to New York. So I was there for like a good 9 years as a teenager. So that's not really when you connect and you think about what you're going to do with your life. So I didn't know anybody there, right? So I came and I said, this is what I want to do. I need your help. Let me please connect to all the filmmakers, production companies on this island. And there's many. It's an island. Now there's way more. But back then, it was a small community. And I just like poured my heart out. Like I was so passionate. I'm still so passionate about it. And literally, I was there in summer, and then I had to come back here. I lived here and I had my work here. I was working probably as a waitress back then still, so that was my work. And then I said, I'm gonna come back in the fall and I'm gonna do the festival, and this is what I wanna do, da da da. Lo and behold, I think it's September rolls around, like a month and a half before, I always read the news, the local news from there. I get like a news feed. They say they're gonna start a film festival. Yes, you can all go, what? And literally I was like, this is not happening right now. And they literally took my idea and they ran with it. And I was like so defeated. And I couldn't believe this was happening. And this is the first time that I learned, oh my God, like you have to be careful who you tell your ideas to, who you team up with. And it was a really big learning experience, but I still wanted to do it. So I went back and I talked to them. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like this is, and they literally like closed the doors, wouldn't talk to me, like pretended I didn't exist. And now this is why I inspired myself, because I talked to some friends and friends of my parents who saw me grow up, and they were like, you know what you have to do? You still have to do it. And I'm like, how am I gonna do it? Like they're doing it. They have all the press. They have all, like, they know actors that are gonna come. Who's gonna come to my thing? I did it, guys. I put out the dates. They did it as well. There were 2 festivals happening at the same time that first year, and look who's happening now 9 years later.
Hey.
Yes. And thank you. It's just a testimony. And guys, I wanted to quit every year. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. But if you have a dream and you have a passion for something, don't let anyone stop you. Like, inspire yourself to do it. Like, that's what helped me. That's my little story.
Amen. Amen. Martin, it's your turn.
Yeah, so I talked about that teacher, but obviously every of those steps as you want to just learn more, and I feel very lucky, and you know, people say you create your own luck, but like, you know, every step of the way, I really felt like I was moving forward. I didn't know where I was moving towards to, but every time I was doing something, I was doing it like 110%. I was just, and when the opportunity to work with Jean-Marc Vallée was really, for me, you know, very inspiring. And back then, you guys didn't know him because he has not done any of those big American movies. But, you know, in Quebec, he was one of the most famous directors. And you know, when as I was editing a couple of things before meeting him, you know, I think I got this, you know, I think I know what editing is all about. I think I nailed it, you know, and working with him, I was like, I know nothing. Again, I know nothing, and I'm just gonna keep on learning. And this guy taught me so much about editing, about storytelling, about directing, acting, everything. And it just like, you know, the power of sound, the power of music, the power of trying to do something completely different than what is expected. So every time, you know, I was working on a scene and something was too obvious, you know, I was trying something else just mainly to please him at first, obviously, but also just to see how much you can push the story and forget about the script, you know, and big respect to screenwriters, by the way. But, you know, as you know, there's many stages of screenwriting, there's many stages of storytelling, and, you know, it's, you know, the script is in the garbage bin when we're in the editing. I'm sorry, you know, it was a blueprint, beautiful blueprint, and then we do something else with it. But that's the beauty of stories, the beauty of film, and I would say to anyone who wants to become a screenwriter, a director, an editor, go into the editing room first and foremost. You'll learn so much, and then you can do whatever you want. I'm still aspiring to direct one day, but I'm very content and happy if I get stuck in the editing room all my life.
Arrey, tell us a story.
Oh man, I mean, I have so many stories. I was working in, not large-scale recording studios for probably 6 or 7 years before I even got like a break. So one thing I do love and hate about creative people is that we're all fucking nuts. And you put a bunch of them in a room that doesn't have any windows for days and days at a time, like some people are gonna lose it. And so I've seen everything from, just everything. I mean, I guess something that would relate to the school. I mean, my first internship that I got after the school, the guy who owned the studio came to the school and spoke, and he just said what the equipment was that he had in the studio. And I was like, I know how to work all of that, so I want to try and get a job there, like an internship. And so what he didn't say was that he was going on vacation for like 3 weeks. And back then you have to fax your resume. So I faxed him a resume probably like 2 or 3 times a day. And then he came back from his vacation and his fax machine was just out of paper. And all he had was my resume. So he finally just called me up, and all it was for an unpaid internship. And he was like, yeah, you can come get the coffee. But after like 2 months of working there, the engineer that was working there wasn't the nicest guy, and didn't really know what he was doing that much, but I had to keep my mouth shut for like the first couple months, and then I had the opportunity to show that I had skills, and I waited for the right time, and the next day I came into work and set up the studio for the session, and I was like, where's the engineer? And the owner was just like, you're the engineer. The other guy's gone. I was like, all right. He's like, I'm gonna pay you. I was like, that works. And that was it. And from that little studio, I mean, they took, people came in there and took me all over the world. Like, I spent months in Jamaica with some people that I just met like a day before, and they were like, we like you. You should come to Jamaica. And I was like, sure. It's Hollywood. Like, I didn't take them that seriously, And then like 2 days later, they're like, your ticket's at the airport. Go pick it up. And I'm like 19 years old. I didn't even know, like, we're in the jungle of Jamaica. I didn't even know Jamaica had jungles. I thought it was all beaches. And I get there. I didn't know that you're not supposed to say that They asked me if I'm there for work, and I'm like all proud of it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm here to work. And they're like, where's your work visa? And I was like, I don't have one. They're like, where are you staying? I was like, I don't know. I mean, from that to even I guess getting my, and there's years of that, years of doing the craziest, whatever you can get to practice and to make a living at the same time. You kind of just take whatever's there, and you're very grateful for it. And then, even leading up to when I got my big break, or the beginning of the big break, I was recording an album with a Chippendale dancer, and he was paying me and my friend to write and record an album for this Chippendale dancer. It's like, yeah, you're gonna pay us, we're gonna do it. And then with that guy came in the guy that would eventually change my entire life. So you just don't know where it's gonna come. You can plan as much as you want, but you really never know. The best you could plan is just to hone your skills and just be ready for when that opportunity does come. I guess that's it.
Who was the guy?
I was Bruno Mars.
Bruno Mars.
He was not the Chippendales dancer.
Alex.
Can you remind me the question again?
An anecdote, something that changed your direction, something that changed your perspective. Can be funny, can be tragic. Just a big thing that happened in your professional life.
I guess bittersweet. I'm gonna go with bittersweet. Honestly, I think the change that really was the highlight for me was starting the company with Alumni. Like my business partner and the writer of the film, David, he's in the audience. I graduated in 2010, I met him in 2012, and my crew is all alumni, and we did a short, we stuck with it, we ran with it, and got us HBO. Like that was, that, and then I guess meeting my idol, working on the Red Table Talk, Will Smith, you know, and now he calls me by my name, so I'm super geeked out by that. So, you know, be working with the Red Table Talk team and becoming a tech supervisor and handling all their stuff and just being on there and meeting celebrities left and right on the A-list scale. Like every other episode is a high-profile celebrity, and it's just cool because you're in their house. They're welcoming you in your home, and just coming from growing up in the hood and watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air at night, you know, it's just like, yo, that's my dude. And I'm at his house, and we're rubbing elbows, and Westbrook rubbing elbows and calling me by my name. So it's pretty cool. I still get nervous talking to him, and but just being around his presence is one of those things that you can't pay for that type of knowledge or that type of experience. And just hearing him talk, even when he's talking to other people, is pretty cool. So I say my number one is starting the company with my partners and from the alumni, being all alumni from the school, and then working on films as a team and just pushing hard it's really what I love.
Let's customize some questions for specific people here. Sandra, let's start with you. What advice, what would you tell a wannabe filmmaker and maybe already have some movies, how they can push their films and their work through the festival circuit?
Oh, that's a great question. Also because I'm about to start a consulting company called The Festival Key. You guys can follow it on Instagram. And what I do there is I consult filmmakers for festival strategies because I feel like after having run the festival for 9 years now, I see so many filmmakers that come up to me and ask me, when should I submit my film? How long should my synopsis be? Should I have a trailer? How many stills should I load up? All these questions. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can answer all of that. So that's why I came up with the Festival Key. And I want to help filmmakers demystify this whole film festival world and help you get your films into festivals. I always say there is a festival for every film, but not every film's for every festival. And so come up to me later if you want to talk to me about this. And I'm happy to answer some questions.
Can I piggyback off on her?
You bet. You go for it.
You need to talk to her. If you guys are filmmakers and you guys want to submit your films to festivals, it's a dog-eat-dog world, even in that level. Like, it's brutal. We got denied 42 times before we got one, and the one that we got was HBO.
Woo, you got the right one.
They got the right one, but it's just that, you cannot give up. And festivals, each festival, you have to literally read the programming. The programmers are programming a festival based off what they think that festival is. And not to say they're judging your film, or they're judging your film, but they're not trying to say it's bad or it's good. It's just, it's not for them. So when you guys are submitting films to festivals, do your research. We learned it the hard way. Me and David learned that the hard way. And then we were getting mad because we were like, my festival's not good enough. And then we start getting into these tantrums. But then we started learning, we started talking to festival programmers, and we started to understand, like, oh, wait a minute, there's a structure, there's a way of doing a festival, running a festival, programming a festival, and all that stuff. So that's super dope because there's a lot of people that don't know how to navigate through a festival, and it's jarring, it's scary, it could be disappointing at times.
I can help you.
And there you go. That's dope. That's pretty dope.
Thank you so much.
That is super dope.
It's easy to believe Alex, isn't it? It's very convincing. Martin, you have something that's very unique to the people sitting up here and the people that have graduated from the school, and you've been through the Academy Award experience, okay? Now, I remember a story that you told me where when you were a student here, you went to the Egyptian Theater and you saw the editors panel for the, I think it was probably 2002.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, there was Moulin Rouge, there was, I can't remember all of them. Yeah.
So if you could like just say a little bit about that experience and then what the experience was like when you got to sit on the stage in the Egyptian Theater with probably a lot of your heroes.
Yeah. As you can probably tell, I'm a bit of a shy person, so I was not looking forward to that Invisible Art event, which is that famous panel with the nominees talking to all these people about their movie and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so when I was a student, I was revering all those editors, all their stories they had to tell, and to be on that stage felt very weird and special, but very nerve-wracking. And then as soon as I started talking, exchanging with my peers, which it was my first feature, and they had so many other features under their belt. It was, intimidating, but they were so gracious. I had the chance to talk to them a bit before, and just to talk, I was talking to the audience. I couldn't see their faces. I was not trying to, but just knowing that there was like students, assistant editors that were there, and that our stories, were probably, hopefully, inspiring them as much as it inspired me, when I was a student, was really special. It was actually, to be honest, it was the best event of this whole Oscar thing. It was that panel and meeting those guys, which I still talk to and, have dinner with now. And because, the ceremony is like, you see it on TV, it is what it is. But exchanging with your peers and talking passionately about what you love was the very special thing.
How did you find out about the nomination and how did you respond to it?
So we were already working on Wild when we learned about it. My mom called me in the morning and she's like, "Oh, I heard Dallas Buyers Club is nominated for this and this and that. I gotta go to work. They're still talking about like other nominees, but congratulations." I'm like, "Yeah, great. We got best acting, we got best screenwriting, blah blah blah." And then my assistant editor on Wild just a few minutes later said, "Dude, you've been nominated for an Oscar." I'm like, "Get the fuck out." I was like, "I know who got nominated. My mom just called me, okay?" And she's like, "It's on." Then she showed me. I was like, not believing it. I called right away Jean-Marc. It was early in the morning for us because we're 3 hours difference in Montreal. And he was sick the night before. He got the stomach bug, something. And then, so I woke him up. I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, man, but we got nominated for a freaking Oscar." And he's like, what? Oh, let me check my text emails. Oh yeah, we are. And then he's not feeling really well, but he's just like, "Okay, listen to me. I've been through this before." He's not been nominated before, but he's been through the whole press and everything. He's like, "Don't answer the phone. Don't talk to the medias. We got a movie to finish. Continue working, and then we'll talk about this later." I'm like, "Okay, boss," and just go back to my editing room, which was in my basement. So I didn't really think about it. Like people were like, obviously in my entourage was like calling me and family and everything. Everyone was happy. I'm like, "Yeah, okay, gotta work. Sorry, bye bye." And then it became real, really, when I got in LA and just doing the whole Oscar thing.
Wow. Arrey, you were a member of the Smeezingtons, okay? Does anyone out here know who the Smeezingtons were?
No.
No? You want to talk about the Smeezington? Oh, the Smeezingtons were actually 3 people, right?
Yeah.
They were you and Philip Lawrence.
Yeah, it was me, Philip Lawrence, and Bruno, because believe it or not, nobody wanted to sign Bruno to a record deal. So I met Bruno through Phil. Me and Phil were doing the Chippendale album. And then he introduced me to Bruno, and they played me like 2 songs that like were demos that they were working on. And I listened to them, and I was like, that shit is amazing. Like, we should work together. And I had a recording studio, and they were kind of like writing songs with other producers and like doing kind of like just, we were all kind of on the same level. Like, I was having other songwriters circle through the studio constantly, and we were all trying to write songs and sell them and try to make it work. And they were like, okay, we'll work together on a song. And we did, and we sold it. And we were all just like, all right, let's do that again. Nobody messed us up. And then and we sold that one. And then it just kind of went, and then we were like, why don't we just do this like all the time? Like, they'll stop going to all these other people's studios, and I'll stop having other songwriters come, and we'll just keep the studio for all of us. And that is what we did. And still no one would sign Bruno, and we did that for like, years, like 2 years at least, of writing songs and producing songs for other people. Just trying to all survive and split it 3 ways, which is even harder. Phil was riding the bus. I was getting dropped off by my brother. Bruno had like a Honda CRV, like hatchback. And we were all just like, okay, but at least we're like getting credits and we're selling songs, and it's all moving towards something else. And we would have like, like showcases for record labels, and like they would walk in for like the president of a record label would walk in and like watch his whole band, like 8 people playing, and be like, this will never work, and immediately walk out. Wow. Like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, maybe. And we did that, and just kept doing the songwriting and producing. And we all did that together, and then we would put songs aside for Bruno and like work on other songs, and to the point where there was one person in one of the record labels that was also kind of on the same level as us. He was like an assistant A&R, which is like, not very high up. It's like one level above assistant, And he was just trying to get Bruno signed forever. And no one would listen to him. And then finally we produced like a couple songs all in 1 week that Bruno was singing the chorus. They were rap songs, but Bruno was singing the chorus, and it was Billionaire and Nothing on You. And we did those both in 1 week. And it's exactly like him singing the chorus, the music almost exactly how it is on the radio, and just gave it to this assistant A&R who walked into his like A&R meeting and was like, sign him. And they were still like, I don't know. So it still took convincing, and then eventually they gave him a record deal, and those were the 2 songs of him just singing the chorus that eventually got him to be his break, and essentially all of our breaks.
And Bruno ended up performing at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and then we're standing on like the 50-yard line. I got my dad tickets and like 2 of his friends, and my dad's from Brooklyn, and it was in New York. It couldn't have been any better. And we're like, what's going on?
Wow. Wow. Alex, I know you piggyback onto Sandra, but I wanted to ask you, since, as I mentioned, you have been responsible for inspiring so many grads working at all different reality TV and scripted TV and shorts and so on. So what inspires you to hire people that come to you for work, and how can anyone out here who's looking for work with you?
Oh man, I think you had to start coming to the film school and not realizing that at that time there wasn't the help that with the career development it is now. At that time it wasn't really. They were still trying to figure out what it was, and I started working in the industry beforehand a little bit as a PA, so I had a little context, and just going through the trenches, like everybody went through this school, and just you know, it's fucking crazy. It's like literally fucking crazy. You have to be crazy to be in the industry. So that's just a given. But then the people you deal with, like some of the times are not the most pleasant people, and it's just, or they're not willing to help, or they just hold the knowledge. And I was just like, you know what? If I could just show somebody what to do, and if they could take my knowledge and they could strive with it, then yeah, let's do it. And I since a kid, I guess it started as a kid, I always like giving back. That's just in my nature, and that's what I do. And then I just saw that, you know, everybody, like every other school, like USC or UCLA or AFI, all these prestigious schools that people go to, and obviously they're good schools, but they look out for each other. And I felt at the time at the school that wasn't the case. It was survival mode. It was everybody for themselves. But the realistic part about it is it takes a team to do anything. Like even my man over there, it was 3 of them in the studio left and right, and it's one of the biggest stars there is. And so it was a little bit of me growing up and just always trying to give, always trying to help. And then I just saw like, well, a lot of people pay it forward with me, that I have to pay it forward. That's it. So I saw people's strength, and I was at the beginning, I was picky. Like, you know, if you don't show interest, or you're not with the biz, or you're not a hustler, or you're not focused, or sorry, but I'm gonna give it to the man that's really focused and really wants it. So that was that. But then I realized that some people didn't have the bone to ask a question or go and how do I get this job? So I don't know, man. It's just so hard to answer that question, because it comes from growing up and not having nothing, and then just always seeking for help, even when you don't want to show it. And then just realized that I was good at it. I was good at helping people, and then I'm the big mouth, as you know. I voice my opinion. I've been fired enough from a lot of sets, guys. I'm that guy. Like, I've been fired from a lot of sets, and I don't give a shit. You're not gonna talk to me any type of way. I don't care if you're above the line. You're gonna treat me with respect, because I'm treating you with respect. So that's who I am. And believe it or not, a lot of people gravitate to that, and they respect it. So I felt like I had a power that I could bring people on, and I was like, you know what? So I just started bringing them on, and it just became a thing that I was doing. And then I think I just love doing it now. Like, I fell in love doing it, if that makes sense. I was just telling Dee that I enjoy teaching. It's the weirdest thing, but I enjoy teaching and just sharing, kicking knowledge, you know, and just being like, hey, yo, you know, do this, do that. And it's just, I love it. So it started just out of just me paying it forward, giving back, and then really falling in love. And with it, just helping people out. So yeah, I got people on like reality shows, like The Four, The Bachelor. I've done it all, guys. I've done The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. I've done commercials from Audi to Lexus to Cadillac. I have docu-series, documentaries, you name it, independent features, pilots, whatever it is, I did. And I strived in the camera department, and I really brought in everybody that had it, or I met through the school, and I always came back to the school. I literally, I saw the opportunity, whoever wanted something and wanted to succeed, and I had the opportunity to bring them on as a PA or as an assistant. And yeah, I just pushed hard on that, and I still do it. Like, even my short film, I wanted alumni, I wanted my peers. So, I would say 85% of the crew for my short film was alumni. And I love this school so much, even though I'm very tough with it. Sometimes I don't agree in the political part of it, but everywhere you go, it doesn't matter. And I think that's why I started respecting the school more, because even in our industry, there's a political scenario. Like, it's just a given. So I just like, you know what? I shouldn't be focused on the political side of things, and I just should be focused on the students or on the people that need the help. And that's what really pushed me, like, always having a voice. I'm just that type of dude. I want to see a little homie from the hood say, if he could do it, I could do it. And that's really what it is.
Yeah, Joe?
Alex puts his money where his mouth is. This is the third event he's done here at the school in the last 24 hours.
Yes.
Martin, did you have something?
Yeah, can I piggyback on that? Just about attitude and opportunities. I wish I was a bit more like you, where some people talk shit to you, and like the way people could be, have a certain attitude, and say what I should say to them, and get fired like you did.
No, bro, you got the Oscar, bro.
No,
I'm just kidding.
No, but I think you're absolutely right. I have a thick skin, so I was able, in some occasions, to take a lot of that. Not for the best necessarily, because in the end, after a few years, I realized I still have PTSD from some of those experiences. But I, going through it, I learned so much about what it is to be a leader, a team leader. If I want to become a director, you learn so much from that. And I am a team leader. I'm the head of my department, so I have assistant editors. I work with visual effects editors. I have music editors. I work with a lot of people, and I'm their leader. And being respectful and thinking as them as your peers and as collaborators, and voice your opinion. I'm gonna listen, and it's just making the work so much better.
And it's funny because I need people like him where sometimes they teach me like, just calm the fuck down, Alex. Like, just chill, bro. This is a paycheck, but I work I've been working in the camera department. My bread and butter is a camera operator assistant. I'm in the union, in the guild as that. That's what I do for my bread and butter. But DPs are not the easiest to work with. They're not. And that was always my battle, because where I come from, when you disrespect somebody, it doesn't matter who you are. Oh, bro, you're not gonna do that, right? And I had to learn that the hard way, because I was bringing what I was, even my PTSD as growing up in a neighborhood, and you have to always be guarded. That was me coming into the industry. So I had to get fired multiple times to understand, well, bro, if you want a career on this, you better chill the fuck out, or you better pick and choose your battles. But DPs, I give it up to anybody that works under a DP, even in the caliber of the big time, the people that you guys admire. Those guys are very perfectionist. It's their way. They see it, and it's great. They're talented and they're artists, and I get it. And the pressure they have, and so many people are relying on them to deliver. But it was one of those things that I couldn't comprehend in the earlier me working as an assistant, or really. So I was like, you know what? I just need to kick back and chill. But I have a voice, and I feel like right now, Hollywood has been Hollywood. There's been white Hollywood. There's been black Hollywood. And now, right now, I'm in the position that I've been fighting so long to be. It's been 10 years. I barely got my first big deal as HBO, but only because the wave for Latinos right now is so big, and they're pushing hard for it. But I told my man, and we talk about this all the time, it's like, you know what, I'll be damned. I've been fighting to be in white Hollywood. They don't want me. I've been in black, and no offense to black people, but they have their own thing. They're doing their own thing, and that's cool. But I'll be damned, and I have to be fighting for the wagon that I fucking deserve, and that's the Latino one. So I was just determined just to be a voice and an advocate, and just be like, yo, it's my time, and we need to do this. Me and David, I call him D. She's like, bro, it's been a tough scenario, but even on that, like so we and David, because we look the way we are, we have a rough exterior, but we're sweethearts. And at the end of the day, we love people. But no, it's funny because what I get a lot, even now that I'm meeting with agents and managers and even dealing with the above the line people, it's just weird because sometimes we get these, you did this? I'm like, as opposed to who? What's the difference? Just because I'm brown and I have tattoos, I'm not supposed to do a film? So we embrace it and we joke about it because we come into these rooms and they don't even think that we're filmmakers, first of all. They think we're going to rob them or something.
But I think it's because, sorry to interrupt, it's because people are just not used to it.
Exactly.
Okay?
So
because
yep.
because
That part.
that exterior is not out there. And I'll give you another example. Look at this panel. Can I please have all the women in this room stand up for a second?
Hey.
Thank you very
There you go.
much. Thank you very much. Here we are, and I couldn't count this fast, but I think I saw maybe like 12, maybe 15. So it just tickles down when people say there's no woman nominated for the Oscars. Duh, duh, duh. I mean, ladies, you know we are here. We know know what we have to do. We have the power. We can articulate ourselves. We're smart. We're up here. We're doing our thing. But it's hard. Like,
Yeah, it's tough, guys.
I mean, look at this. The ratio is not right.
It's tough.
I mean, you know, if we're talking about that, when people say you did that, well, we
Yep.
get that 10 times a day.
Yep.
Well,
it's
it's-
tough.
yeah.
There's one thing that I'm gonna leave it with this quote, and we can move on. But my man D, he always says, "Well, I can't get mad at people telling our stories that we're not telling ourselves." That's just the bottom line. I can't get mad at David Ayer for doing all the gangster shit if I'm not doing it myself. You know, and that's what we strive for. We push hard just to be a voice to our community, to the brown kid that just grow up in the street, and not just brown, black, Asian, whatever it is that grow up in a rough neighborhood. We just want to be that voice for them.
Thank you very much. I have these two pieces of paper in my hand here, and one has got printing on both sides. This is the IMDb for Peter Munters, okay? Which I started to write it out longhand, but I got writer's cramp so fast. Because he has worked on so many shows. And there's 40 different series here, and each one of them has about 40 episodes in it. So it's probably about 1,600 individual episodes.
Surely you've heard of the content arms race that's currently happening, right? Like, no one can make enough TV. They need
So-
someone to record it.
And folks, this is all quality programming. So how do you do it, Peter? How do you do it?
I'll say it again, by being the greatest intern who ever lived. No, honestly, it's a lot of the same stuff that every person on this stage has represented. Just integrity to your desire to work. You know, be accountable for it. The fact that you make a choice to go to school is a huge commitment that not a lot of people are ready to make. And some of those people will go on to be tremendously successful. But what it did for me was just give a constant reminder and a benchmark every day of performance. Like, did I invest in today? Did I collaborate with my classmates? Yes. Did I create value in the room, and was I earnest and honest in both my questions and my ignorance to try and raise everyone's experience? Yes. And that's what I tried to do as an intern, and that's what I do in the record room every day. Gosh, when you were talking about the director of photography and their particularities, their idiosyncrasies, man, I got to tell you, I've got idiosyncrasies on every side of the glass in my record room. If it's a room with 8 microphones and 8 actors, some of them might be really famous, some of them unknown. You've got to make them all feel comfortable together. And then if your creative team is in the benches next to you and their executives holding the green lights behind them, there are just so many dynamics of political power and validation going on in that space, and it becomes a lot more than a numbers game of knowing your Pro Tools shortcuts or understanding what makes the funny in a line. And I'm sure, Arrey, you can testify to this too. It's the same thing when you're writing songs and pitching songs, and you've got the greatest singer you've ever met in your life in the room with you, and you can't believe you're getting to collaborate with him, and all of the gatekeepers say no, and they don't get it.
You still have to sell them.
Yeah, you
In the
just have to
beginning.
stay true to that moment.
Yeah, and it took us quite a while before we could just tell them to leave us alone.
We got another song to write. What are you still doing here?
Yeah, I even had it go to the point where a huge executive was trying to write the lyrics and take songwriting credit when he's not a songwriter. You know, he's the president of a record label. like trying to take the job from like a young kid who was just trying to have like their moment, try to make it into the industry. You're not even in the industry yet before you even get there.
That could be pretty damn frustrating.
Yeah, like I mean, we all looked at each other, like looked around the room, like what is going on right now?
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess if it comes to speaking to working on a variety of projects, I think it's all about that level head. Behind the scenes, when people pay me a compliment after having worked with me, they always say, like, why weren't you freaked out by that moment when everything went sideways? Or like when the composer like gave you the wrong song session to record, or the executive script supervisor printed all of the wrong documents and you're left covering logistical elements that should not be your responsibility. And I don't really know the answer, but I just know that I feel better playing it cool. And I know that I'm going to do a good job no matter what, as long as I play it cool. The more I talk about it, I think I realize that when people act out from all levels of power, I think it comes from a feeling of imposter syndrome. Have you guys heard of that before? It's the striking sense that you have no idea what the heck you're doing. Even if you're a master, I think it still haunts masters. And I just try to remember that and know that I could forget what I'm doing at any moment, and that is okay, because for the time being, I have the situation under control. The situation is the boss, guys. You never know what's going to happen, but you can get through it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I got to work on a bunch of different shows and movies and video games. So,
All right.
yeah.
I wish I had more time. I wish we had more time here, because I just feel that we have such an amazing, interesting group. And I want to thank you all so much, because I know that you're all incredibly busy. I know you're all working really hard. Thank you so much for giving to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, you know, the things that I've gotten out of this was the similarities between these 5 people. How dedicated they are, how passionate they are, how willing they are to work hard, how dedicated they are to their creative vision and their ideas, and how well they collaborate. And we have very different people, different programs, different times that they've come through this school, different ages, but they all have something. And I hope that you all have been inspired by these people as I am, because we're all the same. If we have the passion and we have the willingness to work, we can all live really, really wonderful lives. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
And before I let you all go, it's just going to take a minute. Where's the box of cards?
Y'all give it up for Joe one more time.
Yeah, Joe. Hey, Joe, were we supposed to have an opportunity to drop a card in there?
You don't have to.
Oh. Well, bless you.
I've already taken care of you. Okay, so I want to ask each one of you to take a card and read out the name, and we'll see who's going to win these pens.
Right now? We got Renee Bob, empowerment coach.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
We have Newton Ward.
We have Split 20 Studios, Gabriel Freeman. Ooh, look at him being all branded. Yeah.
I'm looking for Tay B of Smash Boy Productions.
Woo!
Tay B.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah? No, he's here. He's here.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Okay.
Is there any makeup artist, hairstylist, special effect makeup person in the house? No, I don't want to butcher it.
Julia Hapney.
No.
Julia.
Julia?
Did I butcher it?
Julia?
SAG puppeteer. That is not a skill you see every day.
Local 706? No? Okay, I guess
Work
another one.
hard.
She has a day off, but she has to work tomorrow. Pick another one.
Pick another one. I cannot read this one.
Adrian Alamia,
Yeah, there you go.
I think.
All right. Thank you all so much.
I have one more thing to say. I brought some pins from the festival, so whoever wants a pin, come and see me.